Hey, what's up, everybody? In this video tutorial, we're going to be taking a look at how to create jewelry with the AI portion of Fusion called automated modeling. So what I'm going to do to get started is I'm going to create a sketch on a work plane. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a line from the origin down. We're going to keep this totally vertical. I'm just going to bring this down like 2.5 inches. All right. And so the top part of my necklace, my pendant, is going to be up here about where the origin is. And I'm just sort of giving myself a line as a reference here. Because we probably don't want a pendant to be much longer than 2.5 inches. And even at that point, it's still pretty large. So I'm just going to go ahead and just give myself that line just as sort of a reference right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start creating placeholders on where my birthstones are actually going to be. So I'm going to create one for my family. So my wife and I were blessed with 4 beautiful children. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out here and I'm going to dimension one of these birthstones to be 0.235 for a diameter. And if you're kind of thinking about where I'm getting this information, if you look back at my PowerPoint presentation, you're going to see actually what the birthstone dimensions are. I'm going to go a little bit larger just to make sure that there's enough of allowance there for these birthstones to actually go into the pendant after I 3D print it. So once I get that first one dimension of 0.235 for a diameter, what I'm going to do is now come up here and use my geometric constraints and say that, hey, all 6 of these are going to be equal size. Okay, so I can just kind of piggyback off of the rest of those. And now I have my dimensions that I need for every circle. Now is the time when I'm going to start placing these birthstones in the exact locations I want them to be on my pendant. All right, so I can kind of just place these exactly or pretty close to where I want these to actually be. It could be in any sort of pattern that you want, but we're going to kind of come up with this sort of cluster sort of look, sort of like a cluster of grapes or something. All right, so I'm happy with where those are at. Before I get out of this, I'm going to go ahead and just rip out this reference line right here. And I'm going to go ahead and finish the sketch and look at this in a home view. I'm now going to come out to all of those circles, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to extrude those out 0.06, just like so. And the operation is indicating that that is a new body. Okay. So once I have that done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and turn on the origin. I'm going to create a sketch on this work plane here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come out here and just draw a vertical line straight up. And I'm going to now draw a circle out here, and this needs to be a diameter of 0.18. Okay, this is going to be the inside hole of this ring at the top. And then what I'm also going to do is just go ahead and offset this out 0.06, and that's going to be like the wall thickness for that ring as well. And this is the ring that the necklace, the actual string of the necklace, is going to come through. And while I have that, just for 3D printing purposes, I'm going to try to keep everything as flat as I can. So I'm going to use tangent geometric constraint. All right, and I'm just going to line it up with that vertical line that I drew earlier. Okay, I'm now going to go ahead and just move this down and get it closer to the actual pendant itself. And now I'm going to go ahead and finish with the sketch. Okay, I'm going to put this into a home view, and then I'm going to come out here and do an extrusion. Now, when I do my extrusion, I am going to make sure that this is a symmetrical extrusion. And I'm going to say my whole length on the top ring itself is going to be 0.125, okay, just like so. I'm going to go ahead and say okay. All right, so while I'm here, I'm also going to go ahead and create a sketch on the same work plane. I'm going to use project, and I'm going to project this inner ring just like so, and finish the sketch, because I do want to come in here again and use an extrude, but this time, okay, once again, we're going to use symmetrical, okay, and I'm going to take this far beyond the ring itself, okay, and we're going to explain why I'm doing that in that fashion here in just a little bit. Now, before I get crazy with this, my operation needs to go from join, okay, to new body once again, and I'm going to say okay. All right, so that's been taken care of. And now I'm going to come out here again, use extrude, and I'm going to come to the tops of all these placeholders that I created earlier. And I'm going to come out a really long way with this. And my operation is going to change from a join to a new body. And I'm going to say okay. All right, so I'm done with my origin right now. I'm going to go ahead and just turn that down. All right, and here is why this is kind of looking the way that it does. All right. Here in just a second, we're going to use automated modeling. And with automated modeling, we're going to be talking about faces that we want to connect. And we're going to then be talking about bodies that we want to make sure we avoid. All right. In order to sort of keep the structure right and allow for things to go into these different positions, okay, we need to make sure that there's plenty of room above this. So I'm kind of working this as obstacle geometry on top of those placeholders and obstacle geometry where the hole is going to be for the necklace. All right, so watch what I do with this. I'm going to come to automated modeling. As I said before, we're going to be talking about the faces that we want to connect. So I want to, pick on this face that's on the side of the ring, the top of the ring, okay, and then on this side of the ring. And then I actually want to hold these burst stones in place. So I'm going to go with these side faces. All right, that's going to sort of surround the burst stone. Okay, so it looks like I have all 6 done. And then I'm going to orbit this over, and now I'm going to be picking the back because I actually want the burst stones, okay, to be held and secured into the back of the necklace as well. All right, so those are all the faces that I want to connect. Now I'm going to come down here to bodies to avoid. I'm going to hit select, and now I'm going to go ahead and pick on all these sort of crazy extensions that I was picking and creating earlier. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and go into a home view. All right, so blue is everything it's going to connect to create the pendant. Red is everything it's trying to avoid, just to make sure that all those openings are not sort of covered with any sort of structure. And now I'm going to come out here and pick on generate shapes. When I pick on generate shapes, now you're going to see it's going to be giving me 6 different alternatives of possible pendants, okay, that I can use as my final sort of body that I'm going to create as a component, okay, for my actual pendant. This can take just a couple minutes, but if you haven't figured this out, this is the AI portion of Fusion. All right, automated modeling is going to be taking care of that. So we're going to do just a quick pause here, and I'm going to let it work on its alternatives. All right, so this has gone less than a minute, and we can see that it's getting really close to sort of finalizing what our alternatives are. And we can see here in alternative 1, all right, if I look at this from the front view, we can see how it is, creating all the places where those burst stones are going to go. It's also going to be creating all this structure. Once again, this is AI. All right, and we can see that this is really giving us an organic sort of look to our actual CAD model. Now, what's kind of cool is that we can actually grab this slider bar and we can start pulling this back, okay? And you can see how it's going to be thinning out the amount of material that's going to use in order to create that pendant. Okay, if I pull the other direction with it, as you're probably guessing, all right, it's also thickening it as well. Okay, so that's my alternative number 1, just to kind of take a look at it. I'm looking at this in the front section of the view cube. I'm going to come here to alternative 2. I can start sort of adapting this to see what it's going to be looking like. Alternative number 3, okay, we can decrease and increase the amount of material. I'm going to go ahead and just orbit this over just a little bit. And when I get down here into alternative 4, you can see that there's true full-blown sort of cylinders that are here with a void in it for the burst stone. Okay, we still have all the structure. Okay, we have all that sort of porous sort of areas where it's creating that, that form. Okay, we can look at 5. Okay, and so on. But we can kind of come in here and tinker around and just sort of take a look at what it's going to do. But I don't know about you, but alternative 1 I thought looked kind of cool. Okay, there's still some volume there within my actual support. Okay, at this point in time, I'm liking what I see, so I'm going to go ahead and say okay to sort of finalize that alternative. Okay, and when we do that, all right, we're going to see that the pendant has actually been created. Now, it has been created at this point in time as a body. So if I come over to my bodies folder, I'm going to come here to the top body, so body number 1, and come all the way to body 14. This is when I can highlight all those, right click, and now I can come down here and say hide. Okay, I can click here in the white space, and now we're taking a look at actually what this necklace pendant is going to look like. Okay, and we can see those perfect little sort of slots here for my burst stones. All right, and we can see that that top has remained open for the necklace. All right. And I'm going to just take this a step further. Actually, I want to apply like a true material to this. All right. But before we get to that, let's say that this is actually what we want. Okay. This is when we could take body number 15 here, right click, and say we want to create a component from it. All right. And this is actually what we'd be using in a true assembly. Okay. So let's go ahead and take this one step further. Let's go into render. Okay. The default setting in Fusion is always going to be steel. So this is what this would look like, as a steel model. All right. But what I want this to actually do is I want to apply some sort of a precious material to it. So before I jump into render here, what I should have done is here in design is right click on the actual body itself is gone into physical material. Down here in metal, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find some precious materials. So we can find things like gold, silver, and so on. I'm going to go ahead and just drag gold onto this. Okay, that's looking pretty cool. If you're not really happy with how that looks, of course, we have silver, titanium. We got some pretty cool looking stuff. All right, so in my case, I'm going to say I really like the way that silver looks. So I'm going to go ahead and close. And now I'm going to go ahead and just jump back into render. And now I can go ahead and go into my scene settings. I can say I want there to be reflections with this. I can go into my environmental library, and now I can come in and start, just dragging on different sort of lighting to it. All right, so that's photo booth. We have things like rim highlights and sharp highlights. Okay, I'm kind of liking the way that photo booth looks, so I'm going to go ahead and just apply that. And then one other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come into settings, and I'm going to come down here and go to like 35 millimeter focal length. Okay, like an old school sort of camera. And once I'm kind of liking the way that this looks, what I can do right within, within Fusion is I can come here to an end canvas render. And now we're going to see how, this would look like if I actually did render this. All right, it's going to give us kind of a good look for that. And over time, this is going to get better and better. Now, obviously, if we wanted to do like a full-blown render, we could come here to the teapot. Okay, we'd have to make sure to save this, and we could render it up there as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back here into my design. All right. And since you're here at this session, you're going to be getting a whole entire birthstone collection. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag and drop that in. Okay, and you're going to be seeing here, okay, within the birthstone collection, all right, there's every single birthstone for every single month. Okay, so in order to create my families, what I'm going to be doing is looking for August. That's my birthday. Okay, we can see how that has been highlighted up here. All right, and now I can go ahead and just use my joint and come here, find your joint origin. And I'm going to put this up here towards the top of the pendant. Okay, go find the dead center, the joint origin. I'm going to put that in as a rigid sort of component, rigid joint. And now I'm going to be coming out and looking for July. So my wife is July. Okay. And I'm going to go once again and use joint, find my joint origin, take that here, drop that in. And then now I'm going to be looking for February. So our firstborn was born in February. So that is up here. Okay. I'm going to be going to joint once again. Looks like I lost track of it. There it is. Find my joint origin and drop that in right there at that joint origin. Okay, and then moving on to September. So finding my September birthstone, it's right here at the end. So I can use joint, find my joint origin. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and drop that in. So we got 2 more kids still. Let's go ahead and find our November. Find my joint origin, set it to the joint origin that's at the very bottom of that pocket. And then finally we have May. So let's find May. And there it is. And now I can go ahead to my joint origin and drop it to the bottom of that pocket. Okay, so I have all of my birthstones that have been included with the actual pendant itself. Okay, everything else here, we can start shutting those down with visibility. All right, just so that doesn't show up, okay, with the actual render. I think everything is taken care of. And now I can jump back over into our rendering environment. I can get a little bit closer here, and we can go ahead and once again, and we can do an in-canvas render. And now we can see that all those birthstones are in place. They're right there in the pendant. And we have ourselves a piece of jewelry. In this case, it is a necklace pendant that was created with artificial intelligence from Fusion with automated modeling. So it's a fun little thing to sort of play around with. You have many different alternatives. You can do lots of tweaking with it. But you got a really very interesting custom sort of piece that was partially designed with CAD, and then the rest of it took over with artificial intelligence. Just a really fun thing to sort of do with your kids in class. And of course, from this point, we could totally take this and we could 3D print this on our 3D printers within our own classrooms. So there you go. That is a necklace pendant created with artificial intelligence found within Autodesk Fusion.